So you've gotten an offer to work on a brand partnership, but what does that actually mean? Today I want to walk you through the 10 phases of a brand deal. And my goal with this video is to help you stay organized and prepared as you do take on brand deals, and also to show you how much time a brand deal actually takes from start and finish, so you can keep that in mind as you go to price your work. If you've watched my videos before, then you know I've been a digital content creator for over 10 years now, and I've been lucky enough to partner with brands like L'Oreal, Amazon, the New York Times, and more. So I do have a lot of experience working on paid brand partnerships. Let's start at the beginning of these 10 phases with phase number 1, which is outreach. I always say there are pretty much 3 ways to get a brand partnership. Either they can reach out to you can reach out to them, or you can apply to brand partnerships through a third party like Aspire or Collectively. I always think that it's best when brands come to you because that means they've already identified you as a creator that they're interested in working with, and there's a higher likelihood that you'll actually get a deal to happen. However, the key to this is making sure that a brand can contact you. So you want to make sure that you are easy to contact because a brand partner should not be wondering how to get in touch with you. So make sure that you have a contact page on your blog or website if that's something you have, which I highly encourage, and make sure that your email is clearly displayed and listed in your Instagram and TikTok bios. In terms of time for a brand partnership, this might take no time on your end, but if you are actively pitching brand partners, you might spend 1 hour a week sending out pitch emails. Then we move on to phase 2, which is negotiating terms of brand partnerships. This is where I think a lot of new creators get hung up or intimidated, but basically when you're entering a negotiation with the brand, you're just trying to agree on the deliverables for a campaign. So the deliverables can be anything from 1 Instagram reel to 1 TikTok video or 1 blog post. If it's a bigger or longer term brand partnership, you're likely going to have many more deliverables than that. And not only can the brand request content from you, but they can also request other things like usage rights, exclusivity, meaning you don't work with their competitors, or even boosting access. So in my experience, it's always best to try to get this information from brands up front whenever possible. So be sure to ask as you're agreeing to deliverables. Do you have any usage in this campaign? Will you be needing any boosting access so that you can promote the post through my account? And just make sure that all of that is very clear before you move in to phase 3. For me at this stage in my career, I'm a pretty quick negotiator in terms of knowing what I want and knowing what I will not agree to. So I usually allot about 30 minutes to an hour for this. But if you're newer and you want to think things through a little bit more deeply or do a little bit more research as you're negotiating, it may take you longer. So let's go ahead and move in then to phase number 3, which is signing a contract. After you've agreed on deliverables, the brand has said, great, we'll pay you $2,000 for 1 Instagram reel and 3 Instagram stories, and we also want 1 month of paid usage with that, and you've said, great, sounds good to me, let's go ahead and put it in writing. That is when the brand will send you a contract. Now, 98% of the time, at least in my experience, the brand will provide you with a contract. It's very rare that you will need to provide a contract. The only times that I've ever personally done that are for newer companies and small businesses. So in general, plan on the brand sending you a contract that they have created. Now, because they're sending you a contract, even though you may have just agreed in an email, say to 1 month of usage, please, 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 read your contracts. I cannot tell you how many influencers and content creators are still signing contracts without reading them. And the reason this is so important is you want to make sure what you agreed to in the email is also aligned and the same exact thing that is listed in this legal document that you're signing. You should never assume that what you agreed to in the email is exactly what is listed in the contract. In fact, so many of the brand deals that I have signed recently have required me going back to the brand and saying, hi, I noticed this in the contract that is actually not in the terms that we agreed to Was this something you wanted to add to our rate here, or can this clause be removed if you don't have the budget to accommodate it? You just want to make sure, because sometimes brands genuinely leave stuff in contracts like that by mistake, especially if they are a big brand working with like 100 or more influencers on a campaign. It can happen. Other times, brands can sometimes still be sneaky and will try to just see what they can get out of you. So don't let anyone put you in a bad position. Please read over your contracts and feel free to go back to the brand with your edits and say, hey, just to align with what we agreed to in the email, I'd like the contract to be adjusted to read like this instead. Negotiating, redlining, and asking for updates to contracts should be a normal part of the negotiation process. So make sure that you are sticking up for yourself and that you, once again, if I didn't say it enough before, read your contract. In general, this usually takes me 30 minutes to an hour to read the full contract and then send my notes to the brand via email, and they might have 1 or 2 back and forth replies with that. Once you've got a contract signed, then it's time for phase 4, and this is arguably my favorite part, which is content production, meaning now it's time to do what we do best and actually create the content for our brand partner. Now, sometimes when you're working with a brand, they will provide you with a campaign brief or a creative concept. Sometimes brands ask you to submit your own, which I think is really cool and allows for you and your personality and content type to shine through in a campaign. And other times they have very specific things they want to call out. Like if you are doing a skincare campaign, they might really want you to highlight the ingredients in their new facial cleanser. So at this point, this is when I would go ahead and review any materials that the brand has sent you in relation to like what they want the content to look and feel like. So they might request a plain background. So maybe this would be too busy for some brands. They might request you to wear neutral clothing, things without logos. So just make sure that you read through any guidelines that you were given so that you can set yourself up for success and shoot your content correctly or to the brand's liking, however you want to picture it, on the first try. If you're interested in seeing what the process of actually filming a brand partnership looks like, I actually recently vlogged the entire day of me creating a sponsored reel for a beauty brand. So I will definitely leave a link to that video down below. You can go watch it after you watch this video if you'd like to see from start to finish how I filmed that project for them. And when you're filming, again, you just want to have a little mini production checklist in your head. Make sure your lighting is good, make sure your sound is good, just make sure everything is in the best position for you to capture really beautiful content. So I think the time for this can really depend on your level of production and your niche as a content creator. It generally takes me a minimum of 2 to 3 hours, though, to film and execute the content portion of a campaign, meaning where I'm actually shooting video content for a reel or I'm shooting photos for a blog post. So just keep in mind that may vary depending on what type of content you create and also what type of equipment you use. And after you film, it's time to move on to phase 5, which is content editing. So when you're editing content, this is where you're going to basically just approach your content from a post-production standpoint. So if you just shot photos, you might import them into Lightroom and you might brighten them. You might remove distracting objects. You might put your own filter or preset on the photos so that they align more with your personal brand. And if you're shooting video content, it's possible that maybe you go into InShot and you start to make cuts to get rid of any dead noise. Maybe you'll add some overlay text or stickers or a voiceover to enhance your story. So really, this is for all of those post-production pieces that you need to put together to create a finished and polished piece of content to send to your brand partner. I also, in the editing phase, like to throw in that this is where I will write out whatever caption or commentary or text is being associated with the piece of content that I'm creating. So if I'm creating an Instagram reel, I am probably writing the caption right after I finish editing the reel altogether, because sometimes that is based off of me doing a bit of voiceover and then saying, okay, what are some of like the bullet points from this voiceover that I'd like to include in the caption? And then when you're caption writing, again, this is a great time to make sure you are checking in with your brand brief to see that you have all of the necessary keywords they want called out, all of the accounts that they want tagged, and make sure that you're writing it out almost as if it's exactly what you're going to post on Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest, YouTube Shorts. We have so many platforms now. There's literally no limit to where you can post your content these days. And in general, I would say for short form content or photos, that will take me at least an hour to edit. Long form video is another story, but as you all know, I also have Sean now, who I'm so grateful to have as part of my team, who is editing this YouTube video as we speak. So I have now outsourced that in my business, but if you are still doing your own YouTube video editing, that I know from personal experience is definitely a big time commitment. So think about, again, what the content type is and how much time you might need to actually edit that content and finish the whole post-production process so you're ready for the next phase. That brings us to phase 6, which is content submission. So now it's time to share the content you've created with your brand partner. And one thing that I probably should have mentioned a little earlier on in this video is that if a brand has hired you to create content, there are almost certainly going to be deadlines associated with your brand partnership. So if you go ahead and input any dates that you need to know about, like for example, the day that content is due into your Google Calendar or whatever you use to keep track of these things, that'll help ensure that you are submitting content in a timely fashion and that you are not annoying your brand partners. And I just want to add that if you happen to be running late on submitting content for any reason whatsoever, telling the brand as soon as possible is going to be your best move. Don't wait and hope that you'll get it done. If you think it's even going to be an hour later than when they were expecting it, it's really nice to get ahead of it, send an email and say, hey, I know you wanted this by end of day today. I'm going to need to send it in first thing tomorrow morning. Sorry in advance and thank you for understanding. Like, to know already, okay, I'm not getting it tonight, but I know when I am getting it, and they sent me the email to tell me that. Those are two really good signs of you taking accountability and just keeping them in the loop and showing that you have respect for their time, even if unfortunately for one reason or another you were not able to meet a deadline. I just think that's always better than ghosting a brand and making them chase you down. Like, that's really not a good look, and we don't want to contribute anything to the reputation of influencers being flaky, because we want people to take us seriously and see us as professionals, which we are. So actually submitting the content to a brand, again, usually takes me around like 30 minutes, maybe an hour if it's a lot of content. And it also depends on where the brand wants you to submit your content. Some brands are super easy and just want you to email it to them. Some people want it uploaded into a Google Drive. Others submit content through platforms like Creator IQ. I have a recurring brand partner that asks me to share content that way, so I have to upload it to that platform. So again, just make sure that you're following the brand's instructions for how to submit content for their approval. That brings us to phase 7, which is then implementing feedback. Now, if you really paid attention to your brand brief and if you are just super aligned with your brand partner, there is a chance that a brand will write you back and say, great, this looks good, you're ready to go. But 9 times out of 10, the brand will probably have a little bit of feedback for you. And usually this is nothing to panic about. For example, I just had a brand write me back today from content that I submitted to them and say, hey, this looks great. I just moved your disclaimer up a little bit because I had gotten a little carried away in my caption, and my little hashtag that showed that I'm a partner of theirs got moved down in the caption, and they like to have it, this is newspaper terms, but like before the fold, so before you have to click on the 3 little dots, so that it's clear that you have some kind of relationship with the brand. And that was totally correct of her, so I said no problem, and I'll go ahead and post that after I finish filming this video, and now the disclaimer will be more visible. So that's an example of a little piece of feedback, but otherwise, you know, I followed the guidelines and the inspiration. I executed the concept that we talked about, so there were no like major edits to be made on that. Every once in a while, a brand may ask you for a reshoot, and I actually don't think this is a topic that I've done a dedicated video on yet, so let me know in the comments down below if you'd be interested in me doing some kind of dedicated video about this, but they may request an entire reshoot of the content. And if this happens, hopefully you negotiated some kind of reshoot fee in phase 3 when we were talking about contracts. But if you didn't, just know that in general, it's really good to just be on the brand's good side. I really should do the whole separate reshoot video about it because I don't want to detract from the 10 phases that I want to focus on in today's video. But the quick thing that I'll say here is if you feel like you did follow the brand brief and they're just going in a totally different direction with a reshoot, that might be the only time when it's okay to ask for a reshoot fee when it wasn't in your contract, because at that point, the brand is asking for something way different than what you were originally paid to do. And if they didn't give you any notice about that and changed their minds after you created the content, that is where I feel like you have grounds to stand on and ask for compensation for the additional time it will take to recreate the content. And generally for quick edits, like, changing the caption and what I just talked about, that might be 30 minutes. But if you do need to do any reshoots or any major overhauls to your content, it will obviously take more time than that. This brings us to phase 8, which is content posting. So now we finally get to share the content we created with our audience, which is always exciting. So the two biggest things that I have to say on the note of posting your content are to, number one, go in and make sure that everything is spelled correctly, that you're tagging the right brand, that you have the right hashtags, that there's no grammar or spelling mistakes, and just make sure that it looks as ready as it could be before you hit publish, because there's nothing more annoying than hitting publish and having the brand come back to you and be like, hey, you misspelled fashion, or I don't know, something that I would do if I didn't have enough caffeine in the morning. And then the second thing that I think is really important after you post your content is that you stick around and engage with your community. So especially keep an eye out on the comments of the post that you just published and in your DMs, because sometimes people don't like to comment in public. Sometimes they like to DM you, which I completely understand. And just keep an eye out for any other questions or comments about what you posted, especially if it's about a product that you are promoting. And this is a great way to just connect further with your audience and go the extra mile to show the brand that you don't just post and ghost, you're still there and engaging in the conversation with your community. So in total, the content posting phase usually takes me between 30 and 60 minutes. And again, that just depends on how many things I had to upload. Instagram stories weirdly always take the longest because there's so many of them and you have to double check the hashtags and everything for all of them. So whether you're publishing an Instagram story or your feed post, etc., and then responding to the first few comments, I would say that the first 30 minutes are really the most important to stay on whatever app or platform you just posted on and make sure you're around to answer questions or even just to like cute little comments that people leave you. That brings us to the next phase, which is invoicing. So you're thinking, thank God, now I did all of that work and it's time for me to get paid. So after you post the content, if you haven't already done this, if the brand hasn't requested it earlier in the process, this is where you will then share your invoice with the brand. And in most cases, the brand will also ask for a W-9. That is a tax form here that we use in the US. So sharing a W-9 with a brand with your employer identification number on it, ideally, is exactly what you want to do to make sure you get paid and they have what they need for tax purposes. Those forms may vary by country, so just take a look for your country and see what might be needed from you. So in your invoice, make sure you include your name, your company name, your payment details, and the due date. And the company that you're working with may have specific requests for you to fill out. They might make you fill out a vendor form or whatever the case is. So just keep an eye out for any emails from the brand or from their finance department and make sure that you confirm with the brand that the finance department reached out to you to get that information, to make sure that you can wrap everything nice and easily and that you get paid hopefully on time. I would say at this point, this usually consistently takes me about 30 minutes to do. And that brings us to the next phase of brand partnerships, which is reporting and analytics. I bet you thought you were done when you sent that invoice, but nope, still have one more really important thing to take care of. So after a brand pays you to create content for them, they want to know how that content did. So in most cases, a brand will ask for screenshots of your analytics, and a lot of brands will just ask you to upload these to a Google folder, or if you are on a platform like Aspire or Creator IQ, sometimes they're able to pull in that data for you already, but you just want to make sure that the brand has all of the information that they need to see how the post performed. And I actually always recommend taking this one step further and providing the brand with a little campaign recap report that you put together as an influencer. Very few influencers will do this because it does take extra time and it's at the end of a partnership, but I promise that the ones who do are really big standouts to brand partners. So I like to take those screenshots that I had to take for the brand and just put them into a beautiful little PDF document in Canva where I'll share additional insights like how the post did. I might spotlight a few of my favorite comments, which I feel like don't really get shared when you're just screenshotting how many likes there were. So adding that qualitative data on top of the quantitative data helps give a more holistic understanding of how your content actually performed. And there is power in data. So if you want to show the brand that your post was really successful, focus on the metrics that performed the best for you. Did you end up getting a ton of saves on this post? Did a big account reshare it? Think about those statistics that you can spotlight and say, hey, one of the biggest wins from this campaign for me was the fact that, I don't know, Selena Gomez reposted us. If you can achieve that with your influencer-sponsored content, good for you. In fact, maybe that should be the new standard that we all aspire to, is this cool enough that Selena Gomez would consider reposting it? I'm just watching a lot of Only Murders right now, so I've got Selena on the brain. So if you want to check out my template for the brand campaign recap report, I will leave a link to that down below in the description box. This is the exact template I use and that I send brands after a campaign wraps, so I hope you enjoy it and get to use it for yours as well. And I would say that the reporting and analytics portion, again, will usually take me somewhere between 30 and 60 minutes, obviously just taking the screenshots, but filling out that wrap-up report and sending it to brands is what'll take me most of the time. So to give you just a conservative estimate, now that we went through all 10 of these phases, it could take a minimum of 8 hours to complete one brand deal. If you are more on the end of 30 minutes or an hour for some of these tasks, it still really adds up. So think about this as you are pricing your deliverables, as you think about your time as a creator and what it's really worth to you, and how much actually goes into a brand deal other than just creating content and posting it. And again, that's a really conservative estimate. I would assume that most of my brand partnerships take more between 12 and 15 hours each, if not a little more than that. But I really hope you found today's video helpful. If you did, please subscribe to my channel. I am trying to be better about asking this because I know a lot of people watch and don't subscribe, but it would really mean the world to me, especially if you watch a lot of my videos and think that my channel is helpful. It helps me get my face out there and help more content creators, and it is really easy to do. So here's some extra good karma today if you subscribe. And if you have any previous brand partners that you've worked with that you want to work with again and you want to learn how to retain those brand partners, check out the up next recommendation on the screen for another video that I made all about that topic that I think you'll love. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.